The first time I saw her there, lying on the ground like just another shadow in the city, I felt something inside me break forever. It was a Friday night, one of those nights where the cold chills you to the bone even when you are wearing a coat. I had just gotten off the bus with my hands still shaking from the exhaustion of the trip. I just wanted to get home, make some hot coffee, and rest a little before sleeping. I did not expect to find anything out of the ordinary on that 5-block walk. But that night, God had other plans. I saw her from afar, a hunched shape on the corner between two cardboard boxes. She did not move, she did not speak, she did not ask for help. At first I thought she was just another homeless person like so many who sadly populate the streets when night falls. But something made me look twice. I do not know if it was the hair long, dark, and familiar, or the way she had her arms tucked against her chest, like she did when she was a little girl and felt cold. I approached slowly with my heart beating so loud I could hear it in my ears. When I was less than 6 feet away, my world collapsed. It was my daughter, my little girl, my blood lying on the street as if she were worth nothing. "Oh my God," I whispered, feeling my legs fail me. "Sarah, Sarah, what are you doing here?" I knelt beside her, although my knees protested at the clumsiness of my movements. Her face was dirty, marked by the dust of the street. Her skin was cold, her lips cracked. Her clothes were worn out and torn in several places. One sneaker did not belong to her. It looked too big. The other was barely a piece of sole held together by 2 threads. I touched her shoulder carefully. "My love, wake up, please." She opened her eyes slowly as if she struggled to remember where she was. When her gaze focused on me, a mixture of surprise, shame, and relief crossed her features. "Dad," she whispered with a broken voice, "what are you doing here?" I could not speak. My throat closed up in a way I had never felt before. I just took her by the arms and hugged her. She cried against my chest, weak, exhausted, as if she had not done so in years. My hands shook as I stroked her hair, trying to understand how it was possible that my daughter, the same one I had raised with so much love, was sleeping on the street like a stranger abandoned by the world. "Get up, honey," I managed to say at last with a ragged voice. "We are going home right now. You are not staying here 1 second longer." She trembled when she tried to stand up. We had to do it little by little, leaning on me like she did when she was small and was afraid to walk alone on stormy nights. Her body was so light, it worried me. How long had she gone without eating properly? How many nights had she slept like this, exposed to the cold, to the danger, to the indifference of people? "Dad," she said again, almost in a whisper. "He left me with nothing." Her voice broke pronouncing that sentence, and I understood everything. I did not need to hear more to know who she was referring to. Her husband. The same one I never fully approved of. The same one she defended so many times. The same one who convinced her that I was too protective. The same one who promised to take care of her. And he destroyed her. But it was not the time for questions. It was not the time for guilt. It was the time to take her home and protect her. I helped her walk the few blocks to my house. Every step seemed to weigh a ton. She cried in silence. I did too, although I did not let her see me. When we entered, I wrapped her in a warm blanket and sat her on the sofa. I made her hot soup, the same recipe I always made her when she was sick as a child. She barely had a few spoonfuls before falling asleep, defeated by exhaustion. I stayed watching her for a long time. My daughter, the same one who once dreamed of building a family, was there sunken, broken, stripped of everything by the man who swore to love her. And then rage invaded me, a dense, deep rage like a fire growing in my chest, but also a pain that made me tremble. While I watched her sleep, I understood that I could not stay still. Not this time. Not after seeing what I saw. I had to do something. I had to confront that man. I had to take back what he had taken from her. While I made a cup of tea to stay awake, my mind began to weave a plan. A plan that had nothing to do with violence, but with dignity, with justice, with fatherly love, with everything he never had for her. And while the clock struck 3 in the morning, I took my phone and looked up the address of the new apartment where he lived with his mistress. There, in an elegant building surrounded by luxuries that did not belong to him, slept peacefully the man who had left my daughter sleeping on the street. But before we continue, I would like to know if you subscribe to the channel, William's Revenge Stories, and if you liked the video. This helps me see that you support me and enjoy my stories. Now let's continue. That night, sitting next to my daughter while she slept, I decided that the next day I would go look for him. I did not know exactly what I would do when he opened the door, but I did know one thing. Never in his life would he forget what was about to happen. When I woke up, it was almost 9 in the morning. I had slept in the dining room chair with my head resting on my arms. I did not remember at what moment sleep had overcome me, but I did remember every detail of what I had seen the night before. My daughter was still there, curled up on the sofa, wrapped in the blanket I had put on her with soft breathing, and her face still marked by fatigue. I approached slowly and watched her. That fragile peace I saw in her expression did not match the reality she had lived. And while I watched her sleep, a thought hit me with the force of a hammer. My daughter was missing from my life completely for 2 years, and I never imagined she was like this. It hurt me. It went right through me. It destroyed me on the inside. I made coffee in silence without making noise so as not to wake her, but not even 10 minutes passed when I heard her move. She sat up slowly, as if her body still felt heavy. When she opened her eyes and saw me, she smiled, but it was that broken smile, as if she struggled to remember how to do it. "Good morning, Dad," she whispered. I went over and sat next to her. I did not want to pressure her, but I knew she had to talk. She knew it too. "Do you want to eat something?" I asked, to give her time. She shook her head. "No, I just need to tell you what happened." I took a deep breath. I nodded. "I am here, honey. Tell me everything. Do not be afraid." She squeezed her hands together. Trembling slightly, her eyes looked down, avoiding mine. And then she began. "Dad, he sold the house without telling me anything. I found out when the new owners arrived and asked me to leave. He was already living with her with the mistress, and I did not have anywhere to go. I felt a wave of heat run through my chest. Pure fury. Absolute indignation. How could he do that to you?" I managed to say with difficulty. She shook her head. "Because he was always like that, Dad. I just hid it all, so you would not suffer. He manipulated me. He made me believe that if I told you something, it was going to cause you a heart attack, that you could not handle it, that it was better to leave you alone." I listened to her in silence, feeling my heart tighten. "But that is not the worst part," she continued, and her voice broke. "When he left with her, he left me without money. I had temporary jobs, but it was not enough for anything. I slept at friends' houses, but it did not last long. Later in cheap motels. In the end, I ended up on the street. I just could not take it anymore." I took her hand. Her hand was cold, but her pain burned. "Why did you not come home?" I asked, almost in a whisper. She began to cry. "Because I was ashamed, Dad. I was ashamed that you would see me like this defeated, and because he kept repeating that you were better off without me, that I was a burden, that if I came back to you, I would ruin your life. I believed him. I was a fool." I lifted her face gently so she would look me in the eyes. "Listen to me well," I told her with a firm voice but trembling with emotion. Never have you been a burden. You are my daughter, my family, my blood. I would have crossed the world to help you. How could you think I would be better off without you?" She broke down. Her crying flooded the room. Her pain mixed with my helplessness. I hugged her while her body shook. "I am sorry, Dad," she repeated over and over again. "I am sorry." "You do not have to apologize, honey," I replied, stroking her hair. "You did not do anything wrong. You were a victim of a soulless man, but now you are here with me, and you will not spend one more night on the street, I swear to you." She stayed there, hugging me for long minutes. When she finally calmed down, she took a breath and added, "He lives in the Oaks condominiums, with his wife, his mistress. Now they say they are expecting a child. That is why he sold the house so fast. He wanted money for his new life. His new life. The phrase pierced my chest like a bullet. So that miserable man had traded my daughter for a younger woman and a more comfortable life without remorse, without guilt, without mercy. I got up from the sofa and began to walk around the living room, unable to control the rage boiling in my veins. My daughter looked at me, worried. "Dad, what are you going to do?" I stopped. I stared at her. I felt my hands clench into fists. "I am going to do what I should have done a long time ago," I said with a deep voice. "I am going to go talk to him." She opened her eyes with fear. "Dad, no, please. He is dangerous. You do not know what he is capable of, and he does not know what I am capable of," I replied without looking away. She swallowed hard. "Promise me you are not going to do anything bad." I looked at her with tenderness, but with a certainty I did not remember feeling in years. "I promise you I will not do anything that hurts you. But I am not going to let the man who destroyed you keep living as if nothing happened." She lowered her gaze. I think she understood that my decision was irreversible. I went to my room, opened my desk drawer, and took out a folder where I kept important documents. I did not know yet what I was going to use, but I knew I would need something, anything, some proof, some data, some clue, because what that man did could not go unpunished. While I looked through papers, I heard my daughter's voice. "Dad, thanks for picking me up last night." I turned around. She was at the door with a fragile but true smile, and that smile gave me strength. "Sarah," I said with a soft voice, approaching her, "never think again that you are alone." I hugged her one more time, and that morning, while the sun was just beginning to peek through the window, I knew with certainty that the next day I would be looking into the eyes of the man who destroyed her life, and that he would never forget what was about to happen. I slept little that night, actually almost nothing. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my daughter's face, dirty, tired, defeated, and then I saw the face of that man she had called husband for so many years, a man who used her, cheated on her, and abandoned her without any remorse. I got up before the sun fully came up. I made coffee. I put on a thick jacket and sat at the kitchen table, looking at the folder of documents I had taken out the night before. I still did not know what I was looking for, but something inside me told me that there were pieces of a puzzle there that I had not wanted to see in the past. While I reviewed old receipts, contracts, and a copy of my daughter's marriage certificate, I heard her soft steps behind me. She approached with an expression that mixed shame and relief. "Good morning, Dad," she murmured. "Good morning, honey. Could you rest?" She nodded, although her eyes said something else. "I slept better than in years," she confessed, and that pierced my soul. I poured her a cup of hot coffee, and we sat face to face. The morning light entered through the window and illuminated her face. It was like seeing a reflection of the little girl I once carried on my shoulders to take to the park, the same one who asked me for stories before sleeping. The same one who promised to call me every day when she went to live with her husband. But life had been cruel to her, too cruel. "Sarah," I said with a firm voice, "I need you to tell me everything you remember, everything, even what you think does not matter." She bit her lower lip, hesitating. Then she took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, Dad, I will tell you everything." She settled in the chair as if preparing to open a box full of painful memories. He started to change long before leaving with her. She began, "At first I thought he was stressed about work, but no, he already had a relationship with that woman. I was the fool who did not want to see it." "You are not a fool," I interrupted gently. She continued ignoring my comment. "One day he arrived furious and told me that the house had to be put in his name. He yelled at me, he insulted me, and I accepted. I still do not know why I did it. Maybe I was tired, or maybe I was afraid of being alone. I clenched my fists on the table. "And when did he sell the house?" "A month later," she replied, lowering her gaze. "He told me the sale was for a project. But I did not see a single cent. When I asked him, he yelled at me that it was none of my business. Then he disappeared for 2 days, and when he returned, he was already planning to leave with her. My breathing became heavy, and no one helped you. No lawyer, no friend. He convinced me that if I reported him, he could say that I was mentally unstable and that I would lose any right. He even said he could take away my last name. He terrified me. Dad, I felt something I could not describe. It was not just rage. It was an ancient, deep, almost primitive pain, as if the injustice committed against my daughter had been nailed into my own skin. I got up from the chair without wanting to, driven by the need to walk. She looked at me worried. Dad, what are you thinking? I am thinking, I said with a racing heart, that man is going to pay for everything he did to you. That I'm going to look him in the eyes and I'm going to remind him who I am, and that I am not going to allow him to destroy your life again. Never again. She stayed silent. Then slowly she spoke. Dad, I am scared. I turned and looked at her with tenderness. You do not have to be scared. Not while I am alive. She got up and hugged me. Her body trembled mine too. We were two wounded souls trying to find strength in each other. When she pulled away, I thought she wanted to rest, but she went to her bag and took out an envelope that was crumpled and almost torn. I found this a long time ago, she said. He does not know I have it. I kept it without knowing why, but maybe it will be useful to you. I took it in my hands. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside were copies of printed emails, contracts, text messages, all related to the sale of the house. There were suspicious bank movements, deposits to unknown accounts, and one thing that caught my attention. A message from the mistress telling him, sell it now. We need it to close the deal on the apartment. I rested my hands on the table. I felt that everything fit, every piece, every deception, every lie. That man had not only abandoned my daughter, had not only manipulated her, had not only left her on the street, he had scammed her. He had stripped her of everything that was hers, and on top of that, he had used that money to build his new life. I stood for a long minute looking at those papers. There was the beginning of my path. There was my weapon. There was the door to destroy what he had built. I returned the papers to my daughter and caressed her face. Honey, thanks for trusting me. She smiled weakly. What are you going to do with that, Dad? I took a breath. I'm going to get justice, but not with blows, not with violence. I am going to do it as it should be done, with intelligence, with strategy, and with calm. I took a step toward the window and looked out. Today I am not going to go see him yet, I added. Not until I have everything I need. But soon, very soon, he is going to know what it is to face a father who has seen his daughter suffer. She approached, rested her head on my shoulder, and murmured, Dad, I am afraid he will hurt you. I smiled without looking at her. Do not worry. He is not going to touch me. He will not be able to. My hands closed into fists. The plan had been born. One that he would never see coming. One that would change his life forever. I spent the morning reviewing every document my daughter had kept in that crumpled envelope. They were loose pieces, fragments of a puzzle that finally was beginning to show a clear picture. But I knew that if I wanted to unmask that man, I could not stick only with loose papers and suspicions. I needed solid proof, witnesses, details, and to know up close the fake life he had built using my daughter's suffering. At 3 p.m, I took my coat, put the documents in a folder, and went out. My daughter was taking a deep nap. Her body needed rest. Her soul did too. I did not want to wake her. I left her a note on the table. Sarah, I went out to fix some things. I will be back soon. Rest? Dad. While I walked to the bus stop, I felt a mixture of anguish and determination. I did not know exactly what I was going to find at the Oaks condominiums, but I did know that I would not return home until I had enough information to take the next step. The ride was long. The building was in an elegant area of the city, very far from where my daughter and I lived. I remember that while the bus moved forward, I saw expensive houses, luxury cars, and people with smiles of superiority, as if life had never been cruel to them. I asked myself how many lives my ex-son-in-law had crushed to get to this place, how many lies he had told, how much damage he had caused. When I got off the bus, the building appeared right in front of me. It was imposing. A modern building with a glass facade, with impeccable gardens, and a security gate that looked more like a wall. The contrast with the place where I had found my daughter was violent. It was obscene. It was insulting. I walked toward the entrance with a firm step, although inside I carried a sea of emotions. A guard approached immediately. "Good afternoon, sir. Who are you visiting?" he asked with a polite but distant tone. "I am here to see Alex," I replied, using my ex-son-in-law's name, feeling how my voice acquired an edge I did not know it had. The guard checked a list on a tablet. "Your name?" I gave him my full name. I waited. The guard frowned. "You are not registered for any visit. Of course not." That man would not allow even my memories to get close to his new life. "I just need to leave him some documents," I said, keeping my cool. "They are important. I can wait in the lobby." The guard hesitated. He looked me up and down. I must not have given the impression of danger. I was a man of almost 70 years with a folder in my hand. After a few seconds, he nodded. "Okay, but you cannot go up without authorization. Wait here." I entered the lobby. The cold, perfumed air hit me in the face. There were luxurious armchairs, shiny floors, modern lamps, everything my daughter had lost. I sat down, took a deep breath, and watched the people entering and leaving. Young couples, executives, a pregnant woman, all with perfect lives, or at least lives without the hell my daughter had lived. 15 minutes later, I heard a familiar voice. It was not my ex-son-in-law's. It was a woman's voice. "Are you Sarah's father?" I turned around. It was a neighbor. I knew it instantly. She was carrying a bag with groceries, wearing elegant clothes, and had that expression of someone who knows too much, but does not know if she should speak. "Yes," I replied, standing up. "I am her father." She looked to the sides as if fearing someone would hear. I saw her a long time ago, before she lowered her voice, before he left her. Your daughter came here a lot crying. He yelled at her in front of everyone. Once he pushed her in the hallway. My heart stopped. "He pushed her?" I asked, feeling a wave of fury. "Yes," she said with a frown. "I reported it to the administration, but he said she just tripped. And since he is friends with the supervisor, well, you know how this works." I did not know whether to thank her or cry. My daughter had suffered more than I imagined. "And do you know if he lives here with her?" I asked. The neighbor lowered her gaze. "Yes. She came to live here even before he separated from your daughter. Many people knew. Everything was an open secret." I lost my breath for an instant. The deception had been deeper and more brazen than I thought. The woman came a little closer. "Your daughter did not deserve that," she said firmly. "Nobody deserves it. But he believes he is untouchable." Untouchable. That word echoed in my chest. "Thank you," I replied with a low but firm voice. "Thank you for telling me." She nodded and walked away, leaving me alone with thoughts that were no longer thoughts. They were fires. They were knives. They were decisions. I looked at the elevator. I knew I could not go up. I knew that today I could not confront him yet. But I did need to see more. So I left the building and walked around the structure looking for signs of his life from the outside. And there he was on the 4th-floor balcony, him my ex-son-in-law. He was laughing with a glass in his hand, laughing as if life belonged to him, as if he had never hurt anyone. And by his side was the mistress, the woman for whom he destroyed my daughter, the woman who was heavily pregnant. There was music, there was celebration, there was happiness. I felt something inside me split, because while they celebrated their new life, my daughter was sleeping in my house after having lived on the street. I did not move a single muscle. I just watched until he went back inside the apartment, not imagining that from below the man he should have never despised was watching him. That day, as I walked away from the building, I understood everything. I was not going to hit him. I was not going to insult him. I was not going to confront him like a furious old man. I was going to destroy him with the same calm with which he destroyed my daughter. But unlike him, mine would not be cowardice. It would be justice. I walked back home slowly with the folder pressed against my chest and my mind full of images I could not erase. Every step seemed heavier than the last. The echo of the laughter I had heard on that balcony kept pounding inside my head like a hammer. Years had passed since I felt such an explosive mix of hate, pain, and determination. When I arrived, the sun was going down, the house was silent. But that silence was not empty. It was the silence of peace my daughter needed. I approached the sofa where she had slept the night before. This time she was awake, staring out the window as if trying to understand at what moment her life had broken. "Sarah," I said softly. She turned her head and smiled, but that smile hurt. It was a smile of gratitude overshadowed by sadness. "Dad, you're back." I sat next to her. There was a long silence between us, one of those silences that speak for themselves. She knew I had gone to the building. I knew she wanted to ask, but neither of us spoke at first. Finally, I took a deep breath. I saw him. She tensed her shoulders. Him, yes, him and her. She looked away and pressed her lips together as if she wanted that conversation to end quickly. I did not blame her. Reliving that pain was like opening a freshly closed wound. "They seem happy," I added without emotion, as if the words had no owner. She closed her eyes for a moment. "I knew it," she whispered, "but it hurts anyway." I took her hand and squeezed it. "Honey, you do not deserve to carry this shame. You do not deserve to carry his trash on your back. He did not destroy you because you were weak. He destroyed you because you are good. And good people sometimes trust the wrong person." Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not cry. She stayed still, listening. "I do not want to avenge you out of anger," I continued. "I want to do it because he owes you, because he snatched your home, your dignity, your peace of mind, and because I, as your father, am not going to die without making sure you get your life back." Her lips trembled. "Dad, please do not do anything that puts you at risk." "I will not," I replied firmly. "I am not an impulsive young man anymore, and I do not need to yell at him or touch him to destroy him. What I will do, I am going to do well. I am going to do it like a man who has lived long enough to know that justice is more powerful than rage." She stayed looking at me for a long time, as if she were trying to recognize herself in my words, or perhaps trying to recognize the father she once thought invincible. "Dad, I love you," she said, breaking a little. I hugged her, a long, real hug, one of those that hold the soul together. I felt her tears on my shoulder, and I thought that, although the world had been cruel to her, I would never allow it to trample her again. When she calmed down, I helped her stand up. She walked to her room with slow steps, but more secure than the day before. I stayed alone in the living room. I looked at the folder on the table, the documents, the messages, the proof of the betrayal. And there in that heavy silence, I felt the clarity I had been waiting for since the moment I found her sleeping on the street. It was no longer just pain. It was no longer just rage. It was a purpose so solid it seemed part of my own body. I approached the window. Night had already fallen. The streetlights illuminated the solitude of my home. I thought about my daughter sleeping safe under a roof again. I thought about the man who had destroyed her and who now lived like a king. I thought about the woman accompanying him about her pregnancy, about the perfect life they had built on lies. And without realizing it, I spoke in a low voice. "Tomorrow I will start. But before continuing, I would like to know if you subscribe to the channel and if you like the video. This helps me see that you support me and enjoy my stories. Now, let's continue." I took the folder and opened it once more. Every document was a seed of truth. Every message was a crack. Every signature, every date, every printed conversation was a knife I could sink with surgical precision. I did not need violence. I did not need threats. I did not need to risk my freedom or my integrity. I just needed to organize it all, and then I knew what I had to do. I began to classify the papers by dates, then by type, then by legal relevance. I took out an old notebook I kept in the drawer, that one where I wrote down household expenses, birthdays, and reminders. That day, that notebook became my weapon. There I traced the first lines of the plan. A slow plan, a cold plan, a plan impossible to stop when it started rolling. My ex-son-in-law had a weak point, one he had not noticed until that moment. The mistress did not know that the house he sold belonged to my daughter. She did not know it was bought with mutual effort from both of them. And above all, she did not know that he committed fraud by putting the property in his name through emotional manipulation and threats. The walls of that luxurious apartment were built on a secret that only I could destroy. I closed the folder. I breathed deeply. I looked at the clock. 10 at night. My daughter was sleeping peacefully in her room. I, on the other hand, was awake, more awake than at any other moment of my life, because I knew something with absolute certainty. Tomorrow would be the beginning of the end for him, and the beginning of a new life for my daughter. I slept barely a few hours, but I got up with a clarity I had not felt for decades. The sunrise entered through the window like a golden line, splitting the darkness of the bedroom in two. I dressed slowly with the solemnity of someone preparing for something inevitable. I washed my face, combed my gray hair, and looked in the mirror. I did not see an old man. I saw a father. I saw a protector. I saw someone who had gotten tired of life taking away what he loved. I took the folder with the evidence and put it in my leather briefcase, the one I used many years ago when I still worked. Before leaving, I passed by my daughter's room. She was sleeping deeply, breathing with a rhythm I had not heard since before her marriage. I watched her for a moment. I adjusted a blanket over her shoulders. "Today I start giving you your life back," I whispered, without her hearing me. I left and closed the door carefully. The road to the condominiums. The Oaks felt different this time. There was no anguish or uncontrolled rage, only determination. Every step was a silent declaration. I am coming for you, for what you did, for what you destroyed. When I arrived, the guard recognized me. He took a deep breath, as if he already sensed the storm I brought with me. "Good morning, sir," he said with certain discomfort. "I am here to see Alex," I replied bluntly. "Let me call," he stammered. "No," I interrupted, staring at him. "Do not call. I'm going up." The guard hesitated. He looked toward the booth. He looked toward the building. He knew he could not stop me without causing a problem. Finally, he gave in. "He is on the 4th floor, apartment 4B. I nodded, storing the address in my memory as if I had waited for it all my life. I passed the turnstile and entered the lobby. The elevator took ages to open, but once inside, the metallic silence felt like a solemn preamble. I watched my reflection in the doors, a man with eyes full of a fire that no one could put out. When the doors opened, the hallway was empty. I advanced slowly, feeling every heartbeat in my chest like a drum announcing battle. In front of door 4B, I stopped. I breathed. I organized my ideas. And I knocked. At first, there was no answer. I knocked again, harder. I heard steps. Familiar steps. Steps my daughter must have heard thousands of times approaching her to hurt her. The door opened slowly, and there he was. My ex-son-in-law, younger than me, physically stronger. More arrogant than ever. He was wearing expensive sportswear. He had an arrogant smile. Until he saw me, his face changed. The smile died. His eyes widened with a mix of surprise, annoyance, and fear. "You," he spat the word as if I were a plague. "What are you doing here?" I did not answer immediately. I watched him carefully without rushing. He got uncomfortable. "You have no business in my house," he added, trying to recover his tone of superiority. "I came to talk to you," I said finally, "and I am not leaving until I do." He let out a short, nervous laugh. "Talk about what?" "About your daughter." "She brought what happened on herself. I am not going to be responsible for a useless woman incapable of supporting herself. There I felt it." My stomach turned. My blood boiled, but I did not raise my voice. I did not move forward. I did not touch him. I just took a deep breath. "I am going to repeat this only once," I said, with icy calm. "Speak about my daughter with respect, or it will be worse for you." He frowned. "Worse? Are you threatening me, old man?" "No," I replied, locking eyes with him. "A threat is saying something that might happen. I do not work with might. I work with facts." He laughed again, now louder. "And what are you going to do? Hit me? Call the police? Tell the world your daughter is a failure?" That was the exact moment I understood why my daughter had broken, why she had fallen so low, why she had been afraid to come home. That man had no soul. "Let me in," I ordered. "No." "Then I will speak here," I replied, lifting the briefcase a little. His eyes locked on it. The fear returned. "What do you have in there?" "What should worry you?" I replied. "Proof documents, messages, illicit transactions, conversations with your mistress before you left my daughter, and most interesting proof that you committed fraud with the sale of the house, a property that legally should have never been in your name." He paled. I saw him swallow hard. I saw him wobble for a second. "You do not know what you are talking about," he stammered, taking a step back. "No," I smiled slightly. "I know everything, and what I do not know, I will find out. Today I came to warn you. Tomorrow I will not warn anything." He was breathing fast. He looked inside the apartment nervously. Someone was moving in the kitchen. The mistress. Then I knew he did not want her to hear. "Listen well," I said, leaning just a little towards him. "My daughter slept on the street, alone, hungry, broken, while you were here playing rich. That is over. You cannot prove anything," he tried to reply, but his voice was shaking. "Today I am not coming to prove it. Today I am coming to tell you. Tomorrow will be different." He opened his mouth to say something else, but he could not. He stood there paralyzed, looking at the man he thought was weak just for having gray hair. I smiled, a small, controlled, dangerous smile. "Enjoy your day, Alex. You have few like this left." I turned around. I walked toward the elevator. I did not look back. I did not need to. I had fulfilled the first part. He already knew I had found him, and he knew, although he would not admit it, that this time he could not escape. The elevator descended slowly, and while the lights on the panel went down from 4 to 3, then to 2, I felt how my breathing stabilized again. I had not lifted a finger against him, but I had seen him tremble. For the first time, Alex understood that no one else's hand would shake but his. Justice, sooner or later, arrives, especially when a father stops being silent. When I left the building, the morning shift guard looked up. His look was different from yesterday, a mix of respect and surprise. "Everything okay, sir?" he asked cautiously. "Not yet," I replied, "but soon." I walked to my car and sat without starting the engine. I took the folder out of the briefcase and reviewed the documents again. Every bill, every transfer, every forged contract, everything fit perfectly. Alex had always been careless when it came to other people's money. He thought laws were for fools, that there would never be consequences. His biggest mistake was always his arrogance. I turned on my phone and checked the messages that had arrived from the lawyer's office. He worked with surgical precision. He had obtained a preliminary order to review the sale of the house. Also, a judge had agreed to study the possibility of freezing Alex's assets until it was determined if the transaction had been fraudulent. A smile appeared on my face. It was not revenge. It was balance. It was justice. However, before continuing with my plan, I had to go back home. I wanted to make sure my daughter was okay. I stopped by the neighborhood bakery and bought fresh bred orange juice and some fruits she always liked as a child. That small gesture made me feel like we were recovering something lost. Upon entering, I heard noise in the kitchen. I approached slowly. There she was, with her back turned, making coffee. When she turned around and saw me, her face lit up. "Dad, I thought you were still sleeping, she said with a shy smile. I went out early. There were things to resolve, I replied, leaving the bag on the table. She came over to hug me. Her skin smelled of soap, and her hug trembled, but it was sincere. That fragility broke my soul. No one should do that to another human being, much less to the person with whom they said forever at an altar. Did you sleep well? I asked, breaking the silence. Much better than in years, she replied, looking at the cup in her hands. Dad, I do not know how to thank you. You do not need to thank me for anything. I am your father. I am here to hold you when the world falls apart. She took a deep breath, as if that phrase had healed her a little, but I know that inside her there was a knot that would take time to untie. After having breakfast together, she went up to shower. I took the opportunity to call Samuel, my lawyer, an old friend. Ready for the next phase, he asked, as soon as he answered. Ready, I replied. I want to present everything today. Perfect. I will wait for you in my office in an hour. I hung up, put on my jacket, and looked toward the stairs. I'm going out for a moment, I told my daughter. I will be back in a short time. She nodded without asking anything. She knew I was pulling invisible strings for her, and she trusted. I left the house with a firm heart. There was no turning back. Samuel's office was downtown, in an old but well-preserved building. When I arrived, he already had everything ready on the table. Folders, recordings, neighbor statements, certified copies of documents. Michael, what you have here, Samuel said, adjusting his glasses, is enough to sink him legally. Not only for the fraudulent sale, also for financial abandonment threats, and the history of manipulation we can prove with witnesses. I do not want to ruin his life for sport, I replied. I want him to pay for what he did, and I want my daughter to get back what is hers. Samuel nodded. Then we are on the right path. I signed several documents. Every signature was like taking another brick away from the castle of lies where Alex lived. When we finished, Samuel leaned back in his chair. Do you want us to notify him today? He asked. Not yet, I replied. Before that, I must do something else. Samuel raised an eyebrow. Something legal. As legal as breathing, he smiled. He knew I was a man of principles, but he also knew there were limits that once crossed by others demanded forceful answers. Back in my car, I thought about the inevitable. Sooner or later, my daughter would have to face her past face to face. But before that, it was Alex who had to feel the ground crumbling under his feet. I returned to the Oaks condominiums. The guard looked at me surprised. Here again, sir, relax, I said. I am not coming to talk to him. Oh, okay, he replied with relief. I arrived at the underground parking. I knew which car was his. A black sedan he showed off as if it were a throne on wheels. I approached and took something out of the briefcase, a laminated sheet that could not be ignored. It was a copy of the legal complaint with the court's date and stamp. Not the original, but enough to give him a nervous breakdown. I placed it carefully on the windshield under the wiper. Then I stepped back a few steps and watched the car from afar. No one else noticed, but I did. That paper was the beginning of the end. When I got on the elevator to return to the surface, my phone rang. The name on the screen froze me. Alex, I answered without saying anything. Old man, he said with a broken voice. What did you do? What is that paper on my car? Why are you messing with my life again? I smiled, but it was a sad, tired smile. Why did you mess with my daughter? I replied. You cannot do this to me, Michael. You cannot. His breathing was agitated, as if he were on the verge of a panic attack. Let's talk. Please. We already talked today, I replied calmly. Wait. Do not hang up. But I hung up. The elevator opened its doors. I went outside. I breathed the fresh afternoon air. My war was not of blows. It was of truths, and he had just received the first one. That afternoon, after hanging up the phone, I stayed a few seconds looking at the black screen. It was strange. For years, Alex had believed himself invincible, unreachable, untouchable. And now, with just a paper under his car's windshield, his voice broke like that of a scared child. I put the phone in my pocket and began to walk toward the exit of the condominium. It was time to return to my daughter, but it was also time to prepare the next move. The paper on his car was not a threat. It was a warning, a small glimpse of the abyss opening under his feet. As I walked away, I heard hurried steps behind me. I turned my head, and there he was, Alex, breathing with difficulty, as if he had run several floors down the stairs to catch me. He was sweating, shaking, and his arrogance, the one that had fed him so much, was nowhere to be found. "Michael, wait," he said, raising a hand. I stopped not for him, but for what that moment represented. For the first time in his life, he was the one chasing another. "What do you want?" I asked with a neutral voice. "Can we talk between men, between adults?" He stammered, swallowing saliva. "We already talked today," I repeated without moving. "Not like this, not with that paper." "What is that?" "What kind of lie are you inventing?" I took out the briefcase and, without opening it, completely let him see the edge of the documents inside. "Nothing you did not cause yourself." Alex stepped back. His face contracted in a mix of fury and fear. "You cannot destroy my life," he said in an almost desperate murmur. "Like you destroyed my daughter's," I replied, staring at him. "Like you left her homeless. Like you abandoned her. Like you pushed her. Like you humiliated her, so she would never come back to me. Is that what you want us to forget?" He opened his mouth but had no answer because the truth cornered him more than any blow. "That is in the past," he tried to say, recovering a little air. "We have to look forward. You looked forward when you sold what was hers," I replied, taking a step toward him. "Now it will be your turn to look back at everything you did, and this time you will not be able to hide." He tensed. "Michael, I have a life now, a son on the way. I do not want problems. I did not want them either," I answered coldly. "But you created them, and the difference between you and me is that I take responsibility for what I do." He remained silent, but his breathing betrayed that he was on the verge of collapse. That man who had made my daughter cry so many times was now afraid of a few sheets of paper. Without saying more, I turned around. He did not follow me. He did not dare. On the way home, I called Samuel. "I want to see the mistress," I told him. "The mistress?" He repeated, surprised. "Yes, I need her testimony. Even if she does not give it officially, I need her to know who she is living with." Samuel sighed. "Michael, that can complicate." "I know, but it is necessary. He knew he could not stop me." "Okay, I will send you her address." My phone vibrated seconds later with a message. Address, apartment number, full name. Upon arriving home, my daughter was sitting at the table, reviewing an old notebook. When she saw me enter, she gave me a soft smile. "Dad, you did something right?" I nodded. The first step. She did not ask more. She did not want details. Maybe she was afraid to hear the truth. Or maybe she trusted me more than any explanation. We ate together. A simple meal, but full of something we had not felt in a long time. Hope. After dinner, I accompanied her to her room. I said goodnight and waited for her to fall asleep. When I knew she was resting, I took the briefcase again. It was time to continue. The mistress's address was in another elegant neighborhood, a smaller building but equally expensive. I arrived near 9 at night. The doorman stopped me. "Who are you looking for?" "Ashley, I replied, using her first name. He checked a list. "Who are you?" "An old acquaintance." I did not lie. I had seen her next to Alex more times than I would have liked to remember. The doorman hesitated a moment. Then he called the apartment. He spoke in a low voice. He hung up. "You can go up," he said finally. When I reached the apartment door, I heard a female voice on the other side. "Who is it I am, Michael?" I replied. "Sarah's father." There was a silence. Long, tense, deep. The door opened a few inches. Ashley was there with her hair tied back, swollen eyes, and an elegant robe. Her rounded belly showed her advanced pregnancy. "Come in," she said finally, opening the door completely. I entered without taking off my jacket. Ashley sat on the sofa, with a hand resting on her belly. I know why you came, she said without looking at me directly. Oh, really? I replied. Alex called me. He is scared. I sat in front of her. He should be, I replied calmly. She sighed and finally looked me in the eyes. He told me that you want to ruin him. He ruined himself alone, I said, without blinking, and he dragged my daughter with him. I'm just putting things in their place. She lowered her gaze. She looked nervous. She looked tired, and for the first time she looked lost. Michael, she said, in a low voice, I did not know that he had left Sarah on the street. He told me that she abandoned him, that she was crazy, that she was violent, that she deserved nothing. And you believed him? I asked, leaning forward. Her eyes filled with tears. Yes, she admitted, trembling. And now, I do not know what to believe. I took the folder out of the briefcase. I put it in front of her. Believe in this, I told her. She opened the folder, looked at the documents, read the messages, the dates, the proof. Her face changed with every sheet. Her breathing accelerated. Her hands shook so much she almost dropped the papers. My God, she whispered. Ashley, I said softly, I did not come to ask you for anything. I just came to show you the truth. What you decide to do later is up to you. She looked at me with red eyes. He told me that you were violent, that your daughter left because you were a bad father. Did he tell you that? I asked with a bitter smile. Yes. Then you already know who Alex is, I replied, standing up. A man who always needs a monster to justify his mistakes. She broke down crying. She cried as if her world had collapsed. And in silence I knew I had achieved something deeper than any legal blow. I had broken the only emotional refuge Alex had. When I left the apartment, I took a deep breath. The night air was cold but liberating. Alex did not know it yet. But what I did that day would be impossible to reverse. The next morning when I woke up, the house was silent. The sun entered through the dining room window, illuminating the table where my daughter used to sit and write in a notebook that was already worn by so many tears. I made myself a coffee and stayed a moment watching her bedroom door. She was still sleeping. She looked so calm when she rested, so different from the broken woman I had found lying on the street. I took a sip and looked at the clock. At 8 sharp, the phone vibrated. It was Samuel. Michael, he said bluntly. Alex went to the precinct this morning. To report me, I asked with an almost amused tone. To report that he is being extorted. But before he finished speaking, someone else appeared, who Samuel paused, as if savoring the moment before saying it. Ashley, you had an immediate effect on her. She went to the precinct with the folder you left her. With everything. I closed my eyes for an instant, not out of surprise, not out of relief, but for something I had been waiting to feel for a long time. Justice. And what did the officer say? I asked. That Alex's complaint does not proceed. And now, his voice became lower. Now they have 2 lines of investigation open, one for fraud and another for psychological violence and financial abandonment toward your daughter. I said nothing. I just inhaled deeply. This is just starting, Samuel added. Get ready. He is going to call you. Let him call, I replied. I hung up. Not even 10 minutes passed when the phone vibrated again. The name Alex blinked on the screen. I answered. What did you do? He yelled without even breathing. What the hell did you tell Ashley? Why did you bring the police into this? I only showed the truth, I said with a calm voice. Lie, he spat. You manipulated everything. You confused her. You poisoned her. Alex. She read your messages. Your own history poisoned you alone. There was a tense silence. I heard his accelerated, almost irregular breathing. Do not ruin my life, he said finally, with a tone bordering on begging. You ruined my daughter's life, I replied without raising my voice. What happens to you from now on is not my business. He hit something. A door slammed a piece of furniture I do not know, but something broke. And I am not talking about wood. Michael, we have nothing to talk about, I answered, and I hung up. Mid-morning, my daughter came out of her room. Her eyes were still swollen from tiredness, but she brought a serenity I had not seen in years. "Good morning, Dad," she said, approaching the table. "Good morning, honey," I replied. She made herself some tea and sat in front of me. "I dreamed of Mom," she whispered. "She told me everything was going to be okay, that you were going to know what to do." I felt a lump in my throat. "Your mother was always wiser than me," I said. "And she always adored you." My daughter smiled, a small, fragile, but real smile. "Dad," she murmured, "did something happen?" I nodded. "The police are investigating Alex." She opened her eyes, surprised. "Really?" "Yes," I replied firmly. "And Ashley brought proof." My daughter put her hands to her mouth. "Does she knows everything." "Now she does." My daughter lowered her gaze. "Dad, I did not want to ruin her life. I just wanted her to let me live in peace." "Sarah," I said softly, calling her by her name. "He ruined his own life. You're just getting yours back." She cried in silence, clean tears, not of pain, but of relief. At 5 in the afternoon, Samuel arrived at the house. He brought a folder and a serious face. "Michael," he said upon entering, "this is moving faster than I expected." What happened now? He sat at the table and opened the folder. Ashley presented her voluntary statement. She said Alex lied to her about everything related to Sarah, that he hid the sale of the house from her, and that he manipulated her to keep her away from any contact with you and your daughter. I looked at Samuel attentively. "And what else?" Samuel took a deep breath. "She said that last night when she saw the proof you showed her, he threatened her. Not physically, but psychologically. He yelled at her. He told her that if she spoke, he would make sure she suffered consequences." I clenched my fists. "That coward never changed." "Ashley made it clear she fears for her safety," continued Samuel, "and being a pregnant woman, that weighs heavily in the report." I stayed silent for a few seconds. I felt a mix of sadness and cold justice, like a scale finally beginning to balance. "Are they going to summon him?" I asked. "More than summon him," replied Samuel, closing the folder. "They already did. He has to present himself tomorrow. If not, they will issue a warrant." I nodded slowly. Michael, added Samuel, looking at me seriously, "You have to be prepared. Alex is not going to give up easily, I know," I said, "and you also have to be ready for the reaction of his in-laws. They have always protected him." I smiled, with a calm that even surprised me. "They do not know what I know." Samuel held my gaze. He did not ask more. He knew my silence meant the end was near. That night my daughter and I had dinner together. The food tasted different. Not because there was something special on the table, but because there was peace, something I had not felt for a long time. While we drank coffee, she asked, "Dad, what is going to happen when Alex faces all that?" "Whatever has to happen," I replied. She nodded, but then added, "And you? Are you going to be okay?" I looked at her with tenderness. "Honey, I started this for you, and I will finish it for you." She got up, went around the table, and hugged me tight. It was eternal seconds. Of those one keeps forever. "Thanks, Dad," she whispered. "Do not thank me," I replied. "I am just doing what any father should do." When she went to sleep, I remained sitting, looking at the window with the streetlights reflecting on the glass. Tomorrow would be an important day, one Alex could not avoid, one that would change the course of everything. And while the clock advanced, I knew what was coming would be definitive. I woke up before the alarm rang, not because I was anxious, but because I knew I could not receive this day asleep. I got up, slowly made coffee, and stayed a long while watching the steam rise from the cup. It was curious how after a whole life of working, raising children, losing my wife, and facing so many storms just today, my heart beat with a strange calm. A calm that only appears when one knows the truth is finally about to win. The house was silent. My daughter was still sleeping. Despite all the suffering in the last few nights, she had finally managed to rest. Her breathing from the hallway sounded serene. That more than anything else gave me strength to keep going. At 8:30, sharp Samuel arrived. He did not knock in a hurry, but with that firm and secure knock, as always. "Ready?" he asked upon entering, more than ever. Samuel brought 2 folders, his briefcase, and the serious gesture of a man who knows hard endings and also just ones. "Today Alex must present himself at the precinct," he said while pouring himself a coffee. "And believe me, it is not going to be a simple encounter." I nodded. "And Ashley?" I asked. "She has been there since early," he replied, "and she is not alone. Her mother is accompanying her." That surprised me. The mother Samuel smiled barely. "It seems last night Ashley talked to her, and she told everything she had lived. What he told her, what you showed her, what he had done with your daughter." The image hit me hard. A pregnant woman, young, trembling, confessing she had been living with a manipulative man without realizing it, and her mother holding her, listening to a story no mother would want to hear. "She wants to testify too," added Samuel. "She claims that months ago she saw signs but did not know how to interpret them." I let out a long sigh. "Then today everything will be known," I said. Samuel denied softly. "A part. But it will be enough for Alex to stop pretending to be a respectable man." At 10 we left for the precinct. The place was busier than usual. There were voices, whispers, people entering and leaving, and there, sitting with her gaze down, was Ashley. I had not seen her since that night. Her hands rested on her belly, and it was clear she had cried recently. I approached slowly. "Ashley," I greeted with a warm tone. She looked up. Her eyes were red, but in her expression there was something more than sadness. There was decision. "Mr. Michael," she whispered, "thank you." "Thank you for opening my eyes," I denied softly. "Do not thank me. You opened your eyes alone. I showed you a mirror." She pressed her lips together and nodded. "My mom is inside," she said. "She is talking to the officers." "Good," I replied. "It is important." At that moment, the precinct door opened suddenly. Alex appeared. He was dressed well, as always, but his appearance was far from his usual arrogance. He had a wrinkled shirt, messy hair, and agitated breathing. But the most shocking thing was his look, a mix of fear, rage, and desperation. When he saw Ashley, his face tensed. When he saw me, he lost color. "You," he spat between his teeth. "So you did it. You turned everyone against me." "No, Alex," I told him calmly. "You did it alone." Ashley stepped back when he approached. Instinctively, I put myself in front of her. "Alex," I warned him, "not one more step." He looked at me with a hatred I had never seen in anyone. "You destroyed my life," he said. I tilted my head a little. "No. I just stopped allowing you to destroy my daughters." Samuel took a step forward. "Alex, it is time. Go inside." He stayed still as if his body refused to move. "I am not going to declare anything," he said. "Perfect," replied Samuel. "We will do it without you." That "we will do it without you" hit him more than any insult. Inside, the scene was different. Ordered, cold, official. Statements were taken one by one. First, Ashley spoke. I heard her from behind the glass. Her voice was soft but firm. She told everything. The yelling, the lies, the manipulations. The nights Alex made her feel responsible for everything he did. She spoke about the sale of my daughter's house, about how he had deceived her, telling her Sarah did not want to fight for anything. And finally she spoke about fear. That was what impacted the most. The officer looked at her with empathy and wrote down every word. Then her mother spoke. Her statement was forceful. "My daughter changed since she is with him." I thought it was the pregnancy, but no, it was him. The officer finished the note with a serious expression. Alex was called next. The room became so silent, the typing of a computer could be heard at the other end. I was waiting in the hallway when suddenly the door opened and he came out furious. "They invented everything," he yelled. "Everything. It is a lie. She is manipulated by this old man." He pointed at Samuel, then at me, then at Ashley. "You two ruined my family." Alex said Samuel, with forced calm family, is not ruined by showing the truth. It is ruined by hiding it. Alex trembled from head to toe. I do not plan to lose everything for an exaggeration, he growled. You already lost it, I said softly. His jaw clenched. I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before, the certainty that there was no way out. Hours later, we returned home. My daughter was making soup. She rushed toward me. How did it go? She asked. I looked at her, took a deep breath, and placed my hands on her shoulders. It is over, honey. He is cornered. He cannot hurt you any more. She stayed motionless. Then she began to cry, but it was a different cry, as if her body expelled years of retained pain. I hugged her. I felt her head tremble on my chest. Dad, why did it take me so long to leave him? She asked between sobs. Because you believed in love, I said. And that is not a mistake. She separated a little and looked at me with red eyes. Do you think I will be able to start over? I stroked her hair. You will. You are not alone. You will never be again. That night while she slept, I received a message. It was Samuel. Michael. A restraining order was just issued against Alex. Also, they will start the formal investigation process. Tomorrow I will tell you more. I read it several times. I felt immense relief. Not because I wanted to see him sunk, but because for the first time in years, my daughter could lift her head without fear. I poured myself a whiskey. I sat in the armchair and sighed, long, deep, liberating. Suddenly my phone vibrated again. It was an unknown number. I answered. Silence. Then a broken voice. Michael. It was Alex. I do not want problems, he said. I just want to talk to you. Man to man. Just that. I remained quiet. I am destroyed, he continued. I lost Ashley. My family does not want to see me. And now facing the law, I do not know what to do. I did not answer. I know you. His voice broke. You are right. I was a monster. That did surprise me. Michael, he swallowed saliva. I just want to ask for forgiveness. I do not know if it helps. I do not know if it changes anything. But I had to say it. I took a deep breath. Alex, I said with a firm voice, it is not me who has to forgive you. There was a long silence. I know he whispered and hung up. When I left the phone aside, I stayed looking at the wall. I did not feel satisfaction. I did not feel revenge. I just felt the circle had closed. My daughter was sleeping safe in the next room. Ashley, pregnant, was far from a man who could have destroyed her life. Alex, for the first time, was facing the real consequences of his actions, and I could sleep without the feeling that I was failing my wife's memory. I finished the whiskey. I turned off the light, and while I went up the stairs, a certainty accompanied me. We had survived, and tomorrow would be better. There are moments in life that seem to steal your air, but there are also others that give it back to you. Today, sitting at the table where my wife and I shared so many memories, I look at my daughter asleep on the sofa, hugging a blanket, breathing calmly, and I understand that it was all worth it. I never imagined I would have to rescue her from such a deep fall. I never thought I would find her sleeping on the street, with the same clothes she one day left her house with, believing that love was enough to be happy. That day I felt my heart breaking, but I also understood that a father never stops being a father, not when his child grows up, nor when life goes wrong. In these months, I have learned that justice is not always fast, but when it arrives with a force that changes everything. My daughter has started therapy. She is rebuilding her self-esteem, and she has returned to looking in the mirror without shame or fear. And I have returned to feeling that I still have something to offer this world, even though I am close to turning 70. Regarding Alex, I do not hold a grudge. I do not need it. Life itself has taken charge of showing him that actions have consequences. He lost more than a house or a position. He lost the mask with which he deceived so many, and although he asked me for forgiveness, he understood that forgiveness was not mine to grant. It was my daughter's, and she someday will decide what to do with that wound. But the most important thing is not what he lost, but what we gained. My daughter recovered her freedom, I recovered my family, and this time I do not plan to let go. Every morning I see her wake up stronger, firmer, more herself, and when she smiles at me, I remember that even in the darkest nights, there is always a sunrise, waiting. I am a simple man, an older man, a man who made mistakes, but who also learned to get up. And if I can say something, after everything I lived, it is this. It is never too late to rescue who you love. It is never too late to start over. It is never too late to choose yourself. I am Michael, and this was my story. Before saying goodbye, I want to talk to you who are on the other side of the screen. Did you subscribe to the channel? If this story touched your heart, your subscription shows me that you like this content and that you want to hear many more stories like this. Leave me a like that. Helps me a lot to keep creating stories that reach the soul. Write in the comments what you thought of this story and what you would have done in my place. I love reading your opinions and your experiences, and tell me what city you are watching us from. I like feeling that we are connected, regardless of the distance. Thanks for joining me until the end. See you in the next story.